Growth in the UK next year is also forecast a little higher, at 2.4%, with quarterly growth moderating as it returns to trend, then 2.2% in 2016, 2.4% the year after, then 2.3% in 2018 and 2019. Unemployment is revised down in every single year of the OBR forecast, falling from the 8% we inherited to 5.4% next year before settling at 5.3%. But the OBR today predict that meaningful real wage growth will pick up through next year and grow above inflation for the next 5 years. Indeed, I can tell the House that GDP per capita has grown faster on average in this Parliament than over the last two parliaments combined. Today there is welcome news that the OBR have significantly revised down their forecast for inflation. It is expected to be down to 1.5% this year, 1.2% next year and 1.7% the year after, before it returns to target. The forecast of the budget would have shown borrowing falling from the 150 billion we inherited to 99.3 billion last year, 86.4 billion this year, 68.3 billion next year, then 41.5 billion, 15.8 billion, and then a small surplus of 3.7 billion in 2018-19. Now that's the budget forecast. Today's forecast shows borrowing falling from 97.5 billion last year to 91.3 billion this year, then 75.9 billion next year, then 40.9 billion, 14.5 billion, and then a surplus of 4 billion in 2018-19. I can tell the House that by 2019-20, Britain is now predicted to have a surplus of £23 billion. Out of the red and into the black for the first time in a generation, a country that inspires confidence around the world because it seeks to live within its means. As a percentage of GDP, today the deficit is also forecast to fall this year, down by 0.6% of GDP, down from what the OBR described today in their own report as the post-war record deficit of 10.2% of GDP in 2009-10 to 5% this year. The deficit is no longer down by a third, but now cut in half. And because of careful management, we can afford to put part of that underspend money into our National Health Service to cope with the pressures it faces, £2 billion every year to the front line of the National Health Service. We will help with the employment of carers who do so much by extending the £2,000 employment allowance to include them. Continuing to reduce departmental spending in the first 2 years of the next Parliament would mean at least £15 billion off Whitehall budgets. Our control of public sector pay these past 4 years has delivered £12 billion of savings. By continuing to restrain public sector pay, we expect to deliver commensurate savings in the next Parliament until we have dealt with the deficit. Today, I confirm we are committing to complete the public service pension reforms proposed by Lord Hutton, bringing total savings of £1.3 billion a year. Administration costs in Whitehall are already down 40% over this Parliament. Today, my right honourable friend, the Minister for the Cabinet Office, is publishing a plan for a further £10 billion of efficiencies. Today, we undertake further steps to control benefit spending by freezing universal credit work allowances for a further year, cutting tax credits when overpayments are certain, and ending unemployment benefits for migrants with no prospect of work. The end of our operations in Afghanistan allow us to save an additional £200 million this year from the Special Military Reserve, and I will go further and refund VAT for our search and rescue and air ambulance organisations across the UK. Our hospice charities also make an enormous contribution to our communities. They have long been subject to unfair rules that force them to pay VAT when the NHS does not. I am today refunding the VAT that these hospice charities incur. Today, I am introducing a 25% tax on profits generated by multinationals from economic activity here in the UK, which they then artificially shift out of the country. That's not fair to other British firms. It's not fair to the British people either. Today, we're putting a stop to it. I am today limiting the amount of profit in established banks that can be offset by losses carried forward to 50% and delaying relief on bad debts. Together, that means banks will contribute almost £4 billion more in tax over the next 5 years. I want to preserve the non-dom status that makes our country attractive, but I want them to pay a fair contribution while having certainty about their future arrangements. In the next Parliament, the £30,000 annual charge will remain unchanged, but those who have been here for 12 of the last 14 years will see their payment rise to £60,000, and I'm introducing a new £90,000 charge for those resident in this country for 17 of the past 20 years. In fact, the net contribution of the richest 20% will be larger than the remaining 80% put together, proving that we are all in this together. I'm extending the funding for lending scheme by a further year and focusing exclusively on smaller firms. We'll strengthen entrepreneurs' relief and the social investment tax relief. We'll accept almost all the recommendations of the Office of Tax Simplification to reduce the administrative burden on firms. Today we will extend our new theatre tax break to orchestras, and we will help one area of television production that has been in decline with a new children's television credit alongside our new animation credit. Today I'm increasing the R&D tax credit for small and medium companies to 230% and the credit for larger firms to 11%. Last year, to help our high street shops, pubs and cafes, I introduced a new £1,000 discount on their rates. With the brilliant Small Business Saturday this weekend, I'm increasing that help for the high street by 50% to £1,500 next year. We've cut fuel duty and we will keep it frozen. So from the 1st of May next year, air passenger duty for children under 12 will be abolished. And I will go further than they asked. From the following year, we'll get rid of APD for children under 16 altogether. So today, across all disciplines, we will make government-backed student loans of up to £10,000 available for the first time ever to all young people undertaking postgrad master's degrees. Mr. Speaker, the next step is the allocation of the £6 billion on the biggest ever sustained programme of investment in the research facilities of our scientific community. Today we commit a massive £250 million investment in a new Sir Henry Royce Institute for Advanced Material Science in Manchester, with branches in Leeds, Liverpool and Sheffield, and we back the brilliant work on ageing being conducted at Newcastle University and big data computing at Hartree. We're also committing to the industry of the North with investment in new high-value manufacturing research. We're supporting new academy schools there too, and we're announcing a new sovereign wealth fund for the north of England so that shale gas resources of the north are used to invest in the future of the north. I confirm today that we have reached agreement with the Welsh Government on the full devolution of business rates. This is a great opportunity to grow the Welsh economy. The Government last week supported the proposals of Lord Smith's Commission on Scotland. These will lead to the devolution of income tax rates and thresholds and other powers and ensure the Scottish Government is responsible not just for spending money but for raising the taxes to pay for it. We will publish the draft clauses in the new year. The sheer scale of devolution to Scotland now makes the case for English votes for English laws unanswerable. In this autumn statement, I confirm that the 55% death tax that currently applies when you pass an unused pension pot on to your loved ones will be abolished. People will be able to pass on their pensions to their loved ones tax-free. I can also tell the House today that we will ensure that people who die before the age of 75 with a joint life or guaranteed term annuity can pass that on tax-free too. Next week, we will publish the market-leading rates on our new 65-plus pensioner bonds, which will be available from January. Our £15,000 new ISAs are hugely popular with savers too. Next April, we'll increase the limit to £15,240. Today, I can announce that the jobs tax on young apprentices will be abolished altogether. When a business is giving a young person a chance in life, we're going to support them, not tax them. Mr. Speaker, we also back people of all ages in work, and that is why this government has raised the tax-free personal allowance to £10,000. Next year, the tax-free personal allowance, which was set to rise to £10,500, will rise instead to £10,600. So the higher rate threshold goes from £41,865 this year to £42,385 next year. So I am today abolishing the residential slab system altogether. In In future, each rate will only apply to the part of the property price that falls within that band, like income tax. And here are the new marginal rates. You will pay no tax on the first £125,000 paid, then 2% on the portion up to £250,000, then 5% up to £925,000, then 10% up to £1.5 million, then 12% on everything over that. As a result, stamp duty will be cut for the 98% of home buyers who pay it. If you buy an averagely priced house of £275,000, you will pay £4,500 less in tax. Only homes that cost just over £937,000 will see their stamp duty bill go up under this system, gradually to start with, rising to more substantial sums for the most expensive homes. Through the storm, we have stayed the course. Now Britain is on course for surplus, on course for lower taxes, on course for more jobs, on course for higher growth, on course for a truly national recovery, a long-term economic plan on course to prosperity.